Hi and welcome to Whole Women's Week. I'm Becky from Whole Libraries and today I'm with Esther. So without further ado, hi Esther.
Hi.
Esther, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I'm an engineer. So by day I'm an engineer. I have a PhD in engineering, so I am a doctor in engineering. On the evenings, I try and keep my many classic cars on the road, tinker with them. And then on some weekends, I'm a racing driver. So I race on the track and I'm part of a racing team. So if I'm not racing on the track, then I'm helping people stay on the track.
So we were just wondering what sort of challenges you've had to get to where you are today. So, for example, I know you went to college, didn't you?
Yeah.
And that didn't really work out for you the first time round.
No. So I went to a college, a local college, and I got like a U in maths. I full on failed maths. And wanting to be an engineer, you needed maths. So my mom sat me down. She had a talk with me, and we tried at a different college. When I went to college, there wasn't any engineering A levels or anything. So I had to do sort of maths, physics, and computing. I did. So I'm severely dyslexic, so I hate exams, full on hate exams. And it just sort of always meant that I needed to push harder to try and learn it for the exams and get through the exams. I was always so much better at coursework, which I guess a PhD is like year-longs of coursework, so many years. So yeah, I think they're the sort of challenges and things that I faced at college and those sorts of times.
So did those you managed to take those challenges and convert them into a PhD, which I think a lot of people watching wouldn't necessarily think that you could sort of take something and turn it around in such a fantastic way. And so I just wonder, so going on from that, how you took your engineering PhD and progressed further into the industry and got involved in the classic cars and the racing driving.
Yeah, so I think like for me, my mom's always brought me up with I was always brought up with dyslexia, and my mom's always made me so that I haven't used it as an excuse, and it's like push forwards and don't use excuse, just work really hard type mentality. And so when I went into work, I sort of kept that momentum and things going. I did a bit of work during my PhD, sort of consultant, doing odd bits of engineering work there. And then I went on to a toilet company. So I had a great time working on toilets and urinals and figuring out that urinals flush, because I didn't know that urinals flushed. It was a whole new experience, a whole new product, but it was interesting to work on a product that people use every day, and people need better toilets and stuff. If you can make it a little bit more hygienic, then you're onto a winner type thing. So yeah, it's interesting.
And it's not what people think about, is it? Toilets and engineering, they don't normally go together.
The first job I did at the toilet job was flush testing, and I did months and months of flush testing, and you'd be amazed at how much goes in to test the toilet and how many times you got to test the same toilet. It is quite good fun.
All the engineers, product designers, industrial designers out there, they're all feeling you at the moment.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into the classic cars and the car driving.
So I've always been into classic cars because I helped my uncle when I was a teenager build a 2CV kit car. So he got me into that, and the 2CV is like a simple 2-cylinder, super simple car. Because I did the race, 2CV 24-hour race, and they changed engines in like 7 minutes. Like it's so simple. It's the best car for me. Like I might be biased, but it's the best car to start on. So he got me into sort of 2CVs and working on it. And then when I was doing my PhD, I was chatting about how because in engineering at university, it's very theory based. And I was talking about how I just wished that I had a classic car to just tinker with. And somebody there was like, oh, I just bought a classic car, race car. And I didn't know anything about racing. I'd never watched the Formula One. It just wasn't ever on my agenda or scope or anything. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll help you out. So I helped him out, get the car ready for the race. And then he was like, come watch me race. So I did, and it was freezing cold, and I was in a tent that leaked, and it was horrific. And he won all the races, and I felt like I had a part of that because I'd helped him prep it. So I was kind of hooked from then, helping out. And then as I was helping out, he was like, well, you know, the race team will, like, you know, you just got to do your racing test, and then like the race team will pay you to do one as a thank you for all the work you've sort of been doing. So yeah, so I did one. My first one was at Silverstone years ago now, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. So yeah, that's sort of how I sort of fell into the racing world. I still don't like Formula One. I don't like watching it. Like,
you like doing it.
Yeah, like if there's nobody that I know in a race, I'm a bit like, I quite like NASCAR because it's interesting. It's got strategy, it's got the aerodynamics, it's got drama, like that's quite good. So yeah.
So thinking about everything that you've just said, do you have a proudest moment? Do you have something that you can single out where you think, yes, I'm really proud of that?
In terms of the racing, or in terms of
just of I don't know, you've achieved so much, it must be really difficult to think about it, but I'm just wondering, out of everything that you've done, achieving your PhD, managing that with dyslexia, sort of doing the car racing.
I think the my sort of like moment was when I was doing, so I did Cadwell Park, and I did a race. So I used my now boyfriend's car, and he's very fast, and you always get in the car and you're always slower than him. But I went in a race where he hadn't been before, so there was no like it was funny because he got out, because we were sharing it, because he was in a different race and I was in this sort of race. And so he qualified and got out, and he did a stonking lap. Like, I think he set like records. And then I got in and I was like a whole minute slower, and I was like, oh, but I got in this race, and it was like I was such an underdog because I was the slowest car. I was in the bottom class, slowest car, all of this sort of thing. And I've got Tourette's syndrome, so that whenever you get in the car, you're always like, oh, is my Tourette's going to stop me from doing this race? Is it, you've got that sort of like fear to get over, plus the fear of being in it, plus the nervousness, plus the fear that, you know, your boyfriend's just set like amazing lap records, and you know, you don't know any of the people in this race, and like I was feeling that sort of fear. And then I went in qualifying, and I did really badly in qualifying. I got really scared because lots of fast cars were whizzing past. But actually in the race, I sort of got the racing blinkers on. Well, to be fair, in the race, like the lights went off and everyone just zoomed off, and I was just at the back, and I was like, right, I just need to stick to the person like at the back. I just need to keep him in my sight. And so like I was doing the race, and I pushed harder and harder and harder and harder, and even though I was in quite a bad slow car, like I managed to finish the race, and I got out the race and I finished, and somebody came up to me and they were like, were you in that Nova, that Vauxhall Nova? And I was like, yeah, that was me. He was like, oh well done, like you did really well. And I was like, that's like, I think that's the most recent time where like I felt really challenged, really had to push myself through the fear, had to push myself from thinking that I wasn't good enough. And like by the end of the race, I got second in class, so I got a little trophy, got very excited about my trophy. People came up to me and was like, you did really well, and it was just a really nice race.
That sounds brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So I just want to take a little step back. We've had a sort of brief talk about your dyslexia and how you've always had to push really hard to sort of get past that. And I think a lot of people think dyslexia really is just reading and writing, but it's a lot of other sort of diverse ways in which the brain thinks about things and the way in which you react to situations. What about your Tourette's? Because again, people have a very distinct idea about what Tourette's is, but it's a lot more complicated than that, isn't it?
Yeah, so with my dyslexia, I always think with the spellings and stuff, you can kind of, if you can kind of like push through it and learn and like sort of do it. My mom couldn't read or write till she was like in her teenagers, and she learned herself through cookery books and stuff. So I think with dyslexia, you can sort of, my coping strategies was that kind of push through, do really well sort of type thing. It affects my memory, which affects my vocal communication. So I won't use very much technical words like some PhD students do. I know that can affect my confidence. The Tourette's is a whole different beast. So that's kind of how I kind of approach the dyslexia. The Tourette's is a whole different beast. So I got adult onset Tourette's when I was 28-ish. Didn't know what it was, just sort of suddenly sort of burst out in a quite a scary way. And it took about 2 years to get diagnosed. So even though sort of I kind of thought I knew what it was quite quickly, I didn't want to admit that to myself. It took, 2 years before somebody was like, yes, this is actually what we think it is. And so it's 2 years of trying to figure out how to manage it. And so my way of managing it was to try and take what I'd learned with the dyslexia and try and put it on the Tourette's, which is just to suppress and just bottle it all up and like try and keep it real down, which just means you're feeling very tight and tense because you're just trying to stop your body from moving in weird ways that it just wants to do and stop like saying weird things. I think the public perception of Tourette's is what you see on TV, and it is like that, but it's not like that at the same sense. Like everyone's different. Everyone can like have different amounts of Tourette's in different times. So you probably won't see me tick during this call. It could be because I'm suppressing. It could be just because there's no tics there at this current moment in time. It's on TV, you see a lot of swearing, whereas only 10% of Tourette's people have copulalia, which is the swearing type. And I remember I went into one of my interviews and I was like, I've got Tourette's, but I was like, it's okay, I don't have the swearing type, which is such a negative thing to say, like it was such a silly thing to say. I was like, I don't have the swearing type. Like it was almost distancing me from those people. I was trying to like accept it and understand it and be like, okay. And then of course when I got to the actual job, I did develop the coprolalia, so I do now have the coprolalia, and they were just fine about it. They were just super fine. They let me have my tic tacs. They acknowledged it in the sense that when I said something funny, they laughed. When I had a tic tac, they didn't react. They didn't like, because it can be quite scary when you've got a tic tac. It can look a bit like a seizure and stuff, and so they were just like, do you want a cup of tea? That looked really like tiring type thing. They really did deal with it quite well. And whereas the dyslexia, I feel like I understand it and I've grasped it and I've got my coping strategies. The Tourette's, I still haven't accepted it. I still do everything wrong, and it's that learning curve that I generally don't know how to deal with it still. So yeah, it's all a learning curve.
It's all a learning curve, but it's really positive as well, because you're still achieving what you want to achieve. You're not allowing it to control what you do. And I know I have sort of my own, there are things with me as well, and I've been in similar situations, different health concerns, but similar situations. And it can take time to grasp how to deal with stuff, and it does take time, but I think the way that you deal with it is absolutely amazing. And
there are definite periods of not coping and like being like trapped in bed. There was like my boyfriend says it's the lost year and those sorts of things. Like it's good to acknowledge when you're in that trapped moment, and it's good to acknowledge that you're out of it. You might not like be poster child for Tourette's because you don't quite understand it and figure it out, but you've come through that, and you are where you are. And
but I think anything life changing in that way, you need time to adapt to it, and it takes a long time. So I mean, we've spoken before doing this interview, and I am completely in awe of what you've managed to achieve. So taking everything we've discussed in this interview, all your proudest moments, is there anything that you would like to, have you got a dream going forward, something you would really like to do? Yes, big all-encompassing question there. Esther. No punches pulled at this end.
I think so during the lockdown I started a YouTube channel, and I sort of I'm just putting like when like we do stuff on the cars and those sorts of things, just putting those together and like sort of putting them on there to sort of show the classic car sort of engineering-y side to sort of to people, and to like I think my dream is to sort of give back a bit more than I have done through the STEM events and through those things. I think up to now I've been like trying to like just sort of get through university and get through that and do all the STEM events and stuff, but I'd quite like to I guess inspire the younger generation and like sort of show people that, you know, this is sort of what having a classic car looks like, and please don't have it because it's a lot of work and you'll never get them finished. Maybe I'll think of a better inspirational tagline than that.
Yes, I would go with a better inspirational tagline. Oh, well, I'd like to say thank you from all of us who've been working behind the scenes at Hub Women's Week for providing us with some of your time and talking about just what you do and what you've experienced. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.